Next up in our series of EGX Indie interviews is a game that struck me immediately as we walked past it on the show floor. See, on a floor full of vibrant, colourful, cartoony games, this one stuck out by being a different approach to the traditional video game cartoon aesthetic. And immediately I recognised what it was trying to be, and immediately I sat down and played it. So I will leave you in the capable hands of EGX from a few weeks ago. Here we go. So we have a few traditions when we hit the show floor of EGX. The first is meeting and talking to Thea, who you heard earlier in the show, but the second is finding the stuff that comes out of Abate University. We love the stuff that comes out of Abate University. It's some of the best every year, and I'm here talking to some of the best at Abate. Hello, how are you?
Very good, very good.
Good. So, you are here with the game Physic. Tell us about Physic.
So Physic is a first-person physics puzzle platformer. We like to pitch it as Portal meets Rick and Morty.
And that was what got me and pulled me over here, because immediately you look at the artwork and it's so clearly it's Rick and Morty. And I like that it was, I've played the demo, I like that it was a world that felt really weird and alien, but kind of cartoony. How difficult is that to do?
Well, we've been developing this for the past 2 months, and at least half of that was just the shader work, getting that cartoony look with the outline. And
the other thing I quite like about it is that you say cartoony and video game, and people kind of have an idea of what that is. Like, it looks like Borderlands, it looks like Telltale, but this doesn't. You clearly worked very hard in the shaders to get a very specific art style, and that's what's making it stand out amongst things. So, Portal meets Rick and Morty. Where did the idea come from?
we love Portal.
Okay.
So it was me and the technical director, Antonio. We're sitting together back in December, think we should make a game for their academy. It's our last year. Gotta make something. And like, where do we start? We had just played through Portal 2 multiplayer. Like, we love it. Let's make something like this. But then the obvious thing is, how do you make something like Portal again fresh? So like, the first obvious thing was like, get rid of the sciencey walls, the white and the clinical look. Make it fun. Make it cartoon. What else did we love? Rick and Morty.
So Portal is quite an iconic game in more than just the gaming space. People know it for the companion cube, GLaDOS, this, that, the other. Was it like unnerving to start on day one and be like, we want to refresh one of the most iconic games ever made?
It's super daunting. There's no replacing a game like Portal. But if you can come close or even halfway there, then it's monumentous. Absolutely. So, what do you hope this game to be? You say you're 2 months in, so you're super early in the build at this point. So we see it as another 2-year time investment.
Wow.
Six developers, 6 salaries, and you're gonna make it work.
That's quite a lot of responsibility on such a young graduate to begin with, and a young video game studio, I imagine.
Yeah.
So, do you want to see it on platforms? Because you're saying 2 years, so a couple of years' time we'll be looking at a whole new generation of things. The Switch will be reaching its maturity. That's a really interesting space to try and go into. Yeah,
of course. We're just on the edge, like on the very finite time of the current generation of platforms. So our current target is PC.
Okay.
But whatever it might be, still PS4, PS5, Xbox 720, whatever it may be, that's where we want it.
You can tell somebody's OG when they reference the Xbox 720. That's nice. So tell me about yourself. What made you go to Abate? How long have you been developing games?
So before going to Abate, I had no games background. I was set to go study law back home in Sweden, but my grades couldn't sustain that kind of responsibility that I was setting myself up to. So I liked games at the time. So Abate was the best university in Europe for the course. So went for it, and I don't look back.
That's quite a shift.
Yeah.
Well, look, it clearly worked for you, because in front of you, you have one of the coolest games on the show floor, one of the most vibrant games on the show floor. And you said it yourself, it's early, it's very early in the build, but there's a huge amount of promise for what it can do. So where can people find this game if they want to see what it becomes in years' time? Right,
so make sure to follow @TechnoFluid on Twitter. We'll be posting more and more updates as we get further into development.
Awesome, so that's @TechnoFluid. Look out for Physic whenever it comes out. It's super early at this point. It's Rick and Morty, it's Portal. What more do you want? It's Rick and Morty.
What's not to love?
Rick and Mortal? Rick and Morty? One of the two. Bye. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was episode 2 of our EGX Indie Extravaganza 2018. Join us next week for episode 3, and join us on Monday every week for a regular episode of this podcast. We publish at 6:30 every Monday and 6:30 every Wednesday for our regular podcast and the EGX content, respectively. And we'll see you next week. But until then, the game's up.